Good morning, everybody. Today I want to spend some time going over the answers for the worksheet, the last worksheet that you turned in on significant figures. So as we're going over this, you guys, I understand that the whole concept of significant figures is one that's a little bit confusing at times. And all I can tell you is that as we proceed through the year and as we do labs and as we actually apply the concept of significant figures, it will become more clear for you. For now, it's just important that we understand two things really. How do we take measurements when we're doing labs? How do we record our measurements? And we've gone over the fact that is you record everything that's known plus one estimated value. And again, we'll work on that as we're doing labs. But the most important thing that we need to know right now is how do we identify significant figures when we're actually reading measurements and when we're doing calculations with them. And remember, significant figures only count when we're doing measurements. When we're doing regular math problems, those are using exact or counted numbers. We don't have to worry about significant figures with that. We only have to worry about sig figs when we're using measurements. All right, so let's get to this worksheet. The first part of it was just identifying the number of significant figures. So you can pause this video at any time to check each answer, but I just want to point a few things out. First off, any non-zero number is significant. That's right off the top, that's important to know. The only issue comes when we have zeros. So leading zeros, all right, well, if we take a look at that one, it's sandwiched between two numbers, it's significant, they always will be. If we have leading zeros and there's no number preceding them, these are not significant. So in this case, these last four digits are significant. If we have a trailing zero and there's no decimal point and it's not in scientific notation, those are placeholders. Think about it this way, you guys. If you asked me how much money I had on me and I said, oh, about $7. Well, that might mean $7.25, $7.50, $6.50. It's clear through how I'm saying that I'm really just approximating that. But if I said, oh, I have $7.23 on me, well, that's a much more specific number. So what I'm implying then is that I know that. I've counted it and I know exactly how much I have in there. So this zero right here is kind of just acting as a placeholder. If we were to add a decimal point there, that would indicate that, yes, that zero is important. But for right now, if there's a trailing zero and there's no decimal point, it's not significant. So there would be 2 for that. Okay, 4 for this one. These indicate the level of precision. If I had 75 meters versus 75.00 meters, they may be the same measurement, but by adding those 2 zeros, I'm indicating that my precision is greater with that number. Okay, so scientific notation for these, there's no thought involved. Just count the number of digits in the coefficient, and that's the number of significant figures. Don't worry about the exponent. That has nothing to do with significant figures. So check your answers with those, okay? Now we're going to be rounding. So when we round, you're basically like, this is to 4 significant figures. So we start at the left and we start counting 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to stop at that 2. Is the next number less than 5? If it is, we're going to keep 2 to 2. If it's 5 or more, we round it up. Okay, so check your answers with these. And after you're done, if you have any specific questions, send me an email and we can address those. All right, now for calculations, this is the one where sometimes I think we are struggling a little bit. There's 2 different rules, guys. One applies for addition and subtraction. The other applies for multiplication and division. When we add or subtract, it has nothing to do with the number of significant figures. Instead, it has everything to do with how far past the decimal point our measurements go, okay? So if we take a look at number 1, it is an addition problem. We have this number that goes to the thousandths place, this one goes to the tenths place, this one goes to the hundredths, and this one goes to the tenths. Now, you're only as precise as your least precise measurement. So since this number goes to the tenths and so does this one, our final answer can only go to the tenths place. And we can do this where if you lined all of these numbers up, aligning the decimal point, you just draw a line to indicate as far as you can go, and it would only be the tenths place. Okay, so don't overthink that. Addition and subtraction, it's how far past the decimal point, not the number of significant figures. Now, number 2 was a little bit tricky because if you notice, there were 3 different units: kilometers, meters, and centimeters. I converted this to 1,600 meters, converted this one to 12 meters, and then I was able to add them all together. Now, this was a little bit tricky one. Since the 1,200 centimeters did not have a decimal point, I went with that one. Okay, you don't see these problems very often, but I went with that, and so therefore, my final answer does not go past the decimal point. All right, subtraction, same thing. This goes to the tenths, this goes to the thousandths. My answer can only go to the tenths place. So when we multiply and divide now for these last 4, now it all has to do with the number of significant figures. So for number 6, we're multiplying these 2 numbers. This number has 3 sig figs, this one has 2. My final answer can only have 2 significant figures, which is what I've expressed it in. Okay, so the same holds true for the division problems as well. Okay, so for the last one, for example, this has 5 sig figs. This has more than 5 significant figures, so my final answer has to be expressed using 5 significant figures. So take a few moments now, check your answers, and if you don't agree with an answer and you feel pretty confident about it, email me. Occasionally I may have a mistake on mine. I mean, that does happen, okay? So please let me know. All right, next page, same kind of thing. Number of significant figures, check your answers, and for like when you see these zeros, if there's a decimal point, they are all significant. They're telling you that this measurement, whatever it is, went to the 10,000th place. Okay, that's important to know the level of precision. For number 2, we're adding. So now you can see that they're all lined up. So all the decimal points are lined up. This number only goes to the 10th place. So that's where we have to stop it. So addition and subtraction. And these rules are clearly shown in your book with examples. I posted videos. Make it your goal today to figure this out 100%, okay? And then finally, the last ones, we're going to be doing multiplication and division. And so I wanted to point out just a couple of them. For letter A, this comes out to be 90.06. We can only have 2 significant figures. So you might think, well, all right, I'll put 90. Well, the problem is that's only got 1 significant figure. So we have to express this one of 2 different ways. I can put a decimal point there, which means the 0 is now significant, or I can write it in scientific notation. 9.0 times 10 to the first. These 2 numbers are significant, so that's 2 significant figures. Same thing holds true over here. Our calculated answer is 2,799.75. I can only have 3 significant figures. So how do you express that? I can't put 2,800 because that would only give me 2 significant figures. So instead, I'm going to put it in scientific notation because that's really the only way we can. So 2.80 times 10 to the third, 3 sig figs, and you know what? That equals 2,800. Okay, so check your answers, you guys. If you have any issues with these, please let me know, okay? Again, make it your goal today to figure this stuff out. You will be taking a quiz on this, all my classes. Early next week, we're going to do a quiz on significant figures, metric conversions, scientific notation. We're going to put it all together, okay? I'm also going to be posting a video today on the Atlantic Pacific method of figuring out significant figures. So I would encourage you to watch that as well. It's just a different way to approach the task of figuring out how many significant figures there are. Okay. Have a great day today, you guys. Email me if you have any questions, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.